Hey, welcome to the Creepy Villain MMA show. I am your host, handsome creepy Uncle Nick, and my MMA analyst, Dylan the Villain Peter. We have a huge show for you today because UFC 145 is getting ready to go off, which is Johnny Boner Jones versus Rashad, the grudge match of the MMA history. There's never been a bigger grudge match than this.
So they say.
And let's get off to that right now. We are going to dissect it, sort of. Starting off with John Bones Jones, who you can see is one sexy beast. He's 15-1. He's a former junior college champion in 06. He's a Greco-Roman regional champ. He's a high school state champ and a United States kickboxing champ. He has big wins over Loyola the Dragon Machida and Rampage I'm Not Gonna Wrestle Jackson, Mauricio Shogun Hua, and Ryan Bader. His lone loss is the Matt Hamill by disqualification, and he will be going against
Sugar Rashad Evans.
This is the actual face that Sugar Rashad made after he seen that picture.
Who's 22-1-1, and he's a junior college champ in 2000 and a former UFC light heavyweight champ, and he's the second season of the Ultimate Fighter heavyweight winner, and has wins over Phil Davis, Tito Ortiz, Rampage, and Thiago Silva, and has losses to Machida by KO.
This is going to be a fun fight. To be honest with you, Rashad's the only guy that I can see beating John Jones in light heavyweight right now. And normally I would pick Rashad Evans to win, but I'm going to go with John Jones for a couple factors. One, Rampage picked Rashad Evans, so I automatically have to go against him. Two, John Jones has great range and has got good wrestling, and he's very fast, and I'm just going to say, for that reason, his range I think is going to be a little bit too creative. And the main thing is Evans has a questionable chin. Rampage knocked him silly. He got knocked out by Machida pretty devastatingly.
Thiago Silva almost knocked him out at the very end.
Yep. And Thiago Silva could have finished that fight, except for he was too busy doing his little dance at him. And so I think John Jones is going to test that chin with a spinning back elbow and knock him out. I'm going to say about third round though.
This is going to be an awesome fight. I can't wait for this. The talk has been really going. It's heating up. I'm going with John Jones as well. Great points by creepy Uncle Nick. He's got the longest range in the UFC, I think.
And the youngest champ too, and he's only going to get better. That's the scary thing.
Yeah, and I really respect him big time. He's gone through a lot in his life. Just finding out he lost his sister. I think he could be a great superstar in the UFC. The next big thing.
Well, he's already the big thing. I don't think it's the next. And
personally, I don't think Rashad. I think Rashad has the best chance, but he can also be fighting at 185 too, and he's kind of a smaller light heavyweight.
Rashad's funny because he's got great wrestling. He's fast. He's got heavy hands, and if he lays one of those big overhand rights on Jones, it could be nights out for Jones. But I'm just gonna pick John Jones for karma. I don't like Rashad for the mere fact that I don't know if you guys checked out my post on the Creepy Villain MMA show on Facebook, but that one freaking video of him where he's dancing the whole time, and I hate that. Grabbing his junk in the middle of fights. Garbage. Next up, the co-main event, which is one of my favorite up-and-coming fighters, is Rory the Beast McDonald, who is 12-1 with wins over Mike Pyle, Nate Diaz, and Mike Guyman. His losses to Carlos Condit, but he was kicking Carlos's ass and lost it in like 3 seconds left or something stupid like that.
If the ref wouldn't have called it, he would have won the fight.
Yep, and he's going up against
Che, don't call me Chi Mills, 14-4 with 1 no contest. Wins over Chris Cope in his UFC debut, and this will be his second fight in the UFC.
To be honest, I don't know much about Gay Mills.
He's British.
But I do know a little bit about Rory McDonald, and the way he manhandled Nate Diaz and the way he's just beat the hell out of everybody is remarkable, and I love watching the guy fight. It's been too long since his last fight, and I can't wait to watch him throw this guy around, which he will. Would you say this guy is English?
British.
British. Oh, no wrestling then. Yeah. Rory's going to throw him around.
Rory, there's a lot of guys that are young superstars. Him is on the top of the list. He's one of those guys that have like one specialty. He's one of those guys that just starts off as a full, well-rounded fighter and just starts off with MMA, not just starting off with wrestling or jiu-jitsu. He's a man beast, and he's a huge welterweight, super tall. Lake Jones has a long reach. I'm going with Rory too.
Yeah, I think if he went up against Carlos Condit, if Condit wins the belt, it's going to be Rory's. I think he'll beat him again.
And he's so young too, and he's not even close to being in his prime yet, which is scary.
Yep. Next up in the heavyweight division is Brandon the Hybrid Schaub, who's 9-2 with wins over Crow Cup and Gabe Gonzaga, and he's got losses to Big Nog and Big Fat Nelson. And he's going up against
the hometown boy from Kenosha, Wisconsin, Ben Rothwell, who's 31-8, has wins over Gilbert Eville, losses to Mark Hunt, Cain Velasquez, and Andre Arlovsky.
I'm not a big Brandon Schaub fan, but I think he's got more to offer than Ben Rothwell. I like Ben Rothwell, to be honest with you. He's a hometown guy, and so part of me kind of roots for him. But what I've seen from him out of the UFC, going against top competition, has not been very impressive.
Yeah.
Cardio has not been there, and I'm going to say Schaub's got it. Knockout.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think it's going to be knockout. Rothwell's kind of hard to finish, I think, but
he's probably got one of the biggest hearts in the UFC. Freaking tough ass chin too. I'm going with Schaub too, maybe by TKO or decision. But if it's a decision, I think it'll be unanimous. Schaub, he's young and talented. I think he's just got the overall better game.
And actually, Schaub's getting a little bit older. He's in like his mid-30s, but he's young in his MMA career.
Yeah.
Next up is Miguel the Rapist Torres, who is the former WEC bantamweight champion with wins over Nick Pace and Antonio Banuelos, and he's got losses to Demetrius Johnson, Joseph Benavides, and Brian Bowles. It's Bowles, but I like Bowles better. He's going up against
the second youngest fighter in the UFC, Michael McDonald, who's 14-1 with wins over Alex Soto, Chris Carrasco, and Edwin Figueroa, and has one loss to Cole Escobedo.
Michael McDonald, a lot of people say he's a great up-and-coming fighter as well. I think he's going to have his hands full against Miguel Torres. I'm going to pick Miguel Torres because even though he's not the killer that he used to be in the WEC, where he was just, constantly going for the kill, he's still a great fighter. He's still got great stand-up. He's still got great jiu-jitsu, and I think that'll be enough. McDonald could, he could win this one, but I'm going to go with the Rapist.
This is one of the tougher ones. I think this could be potentially fight of the night. Miguel could be considered one of the greatest bantamweight champs ever. I'm going with Michael McDonald for... I think there's a point in your career where you have to step up in competition and win big fights, and this is going to be it for him. Miguel Torres is a tough dude, don't get me wrong. I'm going with Michael McDonald.
Yeah, I'm going to be there, Michael McDonald. Next up is the nasty fight of Mark Hominick, who is 20-10, which is kind of a surprising record to me. He's on a 2-fight losing skid. He's got losses over Chan Song Dong and Jose Aldo, with wins over George Hrup, Leonard Garcia, and he's going up against
Eddie Don't Call Me Bajin Yang, 15-5-1. He lost in his UFC debut to Junior Assunção, but he has a win over Joe Soto,
the most dangerous man in the world, according to Bellator.
Nah.
I'm gonna go with Mark Goose Egg Harmonic, only because I don't really like BJ Penn or Eddie Yavagan. What are you pointing at? Oh, I don't like BJ Penn or Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and he looks like both of them, and so he's going to lose. That's exactly why.
I'm going with Mark Hominick too. I know he wants to win for his coach, Sean Tompkins.
Ah! And next up is... What a dumbass. And it's a good thing it's only 10 minutes into the video. Go ahead and finish your thought.
I definitely think Mark Hominick will get back on his way to the winning tracks and get up that ladder for the featherweight title.
Yeah, he was the one that was really close with the hell's that coach that died out?
Sean Tompkins.
Yes.
And
I felt bad because that one fight that he dedicated for him wound up
losing in almost the fastest, but he's probably done the best against Jose Aldo I've seen, and I think he'll get a win over this new guy.
And as you've seen by the picture when I accidentally hit the next button, the next fight is Mark Bocek. Yeah. This guy is awesome. He actually talks to us on Facebook.
He's
and
a badass.
Yeah, he answers our questions, and so I give him a lot of credit for that. Not very many other fighters do that. He's got 10-4 with wins over Nick Lentz, Dustin Hazlitt, his most recent wins, and he's got a loss to Ben Henderson and Jim Miller. And he will be going up against
John Alessio, who's 34-14 with wins over Ryan Healy and the War Machine, and his losses to Paul Daly and Sira Bahadurizada.
Yeah, that's the guy that just knocked out Paulo Tiago, sort of.
Impressive.
Yeah. But with me, I'm going with Mark Bocek because I'm a fan of his, and his jiu-jitsu is really good. His only losses really are to like top guys. Ben Henderson was champ. Jim Miller was really close to it, and I don't think John Alessio is going to offer it much that he can't deal with.
I think Mark Bocek's winning this fight too. He's got great jiu-jitsu, and he's well-rounded. And I think John Alessio has way more fights than him, but I like Mark Bocek.
I think the level of competition that Bocek's faced is better.
Yeah.
Then also on this card, this is a pretty stacked card. I'm actually interested in this fight. Travis Brown, who's got really big knockouts, is going against Chad Griggs, who beat the
Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley. That's a huge accomplishment. Matt the Immortal Braun, who's one of my favorite fighters to watch, is fighting that Stephen Thompson guy who had that awesome freaking head kick, whatever the hell that was.
Yep, the new Karate Kid.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious to see what his ground game's like, but I'm sure Matt Brown isn't going to do that. He's just going to do the stand-up Muay Thai thing. So they're getting good, fun fights there. And then
two Ultimate Fighter winners go against each other.
Mac Danzig and Efren Escudero.
So interesting. Can't wait.
Coming up in the month of May, there's, again, a lot of huge fights coming up. May 5th, the UFC on Fox. Nate Diaz is going to go against Jim Miller. Koscheck's going against Johnny Hendricks.
Paul Harris, Rousimar Paulus going against Alan the Talon Belcher, and Pat Barry going against LeVar Johnson.
Go Pat Barry. Then on May 15th is UFC on Fuel, which is the Korean Zombie versus Dustin Poirier, which is an okay fight. I'm kind of surprised it's the headliner.
It would probably be the #1 contender for Jose Aldo's title.
And I kind of figured Donald Cerrone versus Little Heathen Stevens should be the main event because I'm a big fan of both.
Yeah, and then UFC 146 in May.
May 26th, yep.
Junior Dos Santos will be going against Cain Velasquez versus Frank Mir, which that'll be an awesome fight. Roy Nelson versus Bigfoot Silva. Evan Dunham versus Edson Barboza.
I like that guy.
Mark Hunt versus Stephen Struve. CB Dalloway versus Jason Mayhem Miller. And Dan Hardy versus Dwayne Bang Ludwig.
UFC on Fuel was this weekend. Alexander, can you say that for me?
Alexander.
Thank you. Gustafsson beat Thiago Silva by unanimous decision. It was an okay fight. Still don't have a very good opinion yet of Gustafsson. I haven't seen anything. It's hard for me to judge him yet. He's got good movement, but I don't know if he's necessarily the next big thing that everyone's trying to make him to be.
He's now in the top 10, though.
Yeah, I will say that. Brian Stan knocked out Alessio Sakara pretty
impressive.
Yeah, and then he was even nice enough to say, "Woo, you had enough." And then Dennis Seaver made his featherweight debut with Diego Nunes, and he beat him by decision.
Good fight.
Yep. In case you guys haven't heard, Dana White announced that they're gonna look into doing like regional fights and having like a UFC based out of just straight Asia. One out of like Australia, I think they said, because they're doing the Ultimate Fighters over there and stuff, and they need to get more shows out there for them fighters to grow, and so then they might be doing like a European champion, European heavyweight champion and stuff, which I personally think is awesome. More fights, better fights,
super fights.
Yeah, and then the chance of super fights where the European champ could go against the U.S. champ or whatever. Yeah. I can't wait. I hope that comes true. and I think that's just gonna spread the MMA, you know, and make it even for the bigger sport that it's gonna be the biggest sport, bigger than soccer.
And more ultimate fighters,
Yep.
like the UK. They're saying doing now with Australia.
Yep.
And
India.
There's so many good fighters out there, and the UFC bringing every fighter, the greatest fighters out of different countries is just amazing. That you're creating the best fighter. You're gonna find out who the best fighter is.
Yep. And then
in years to come.
Dana White just announced today that I'm trying to think of what the heck that he said. That they signed a TV deal with England or in the UK, so they're going to put on even more fights for that too, which is again the more fights, the happier I am. And then they also made a rumor. I'm not sure that he's talking about eventually getting away from the pay-per-view thing, but we'll see on that. That's kind of a big money drop. Mm-hmm. Also, I just wanted to give a big happy birthday to Nate Diaz. Happy birthday, Nate.
He's our boy.
Yeah. All right. Let's watch the fights this weekend and go Jones.
Heck yeah.